And a 1, a 2, a 3. We are live, locked, and loaded, I believe. What's going on, everybody, on the YouTube streets? Welcome back. If you're watching on the replay right now, I hope you're having a good day. You can check out everything that I have for this week in the golf space. It's already up, our must drafts. It's already up, our betting video, all that stuff. Some stuff on Patreon. The exclusive podcast went up, the rankings, projections. All of it can be found in the description or just on the YouTube channel. But this is the live stream. I'm doing it at 10:18 a.m. East Coast time. We'll go for 30, 45 minutes, somewhere around there. So if you're not watching it at this exact time, it's not live anymore. But you can feel free to leave any questions in the comment section. I try to get to those. Or you can reach out to me on Twitter at Sal Vetri DFS. So the first couple of minutes, we're just going to let people hop on into here, and I'm going to go from there. It's mainly Q&A based. I'll kind of give my thoughts from there and kind of get a little bit more, I guess you can say, advanced and more long-winded within the responses to give you an idea. I think that this is an interesting week overall. What's going on, Scary Flying? Interesting week overall because, look, it's just going to be wild, right? You have just no cut, 4 rounds. Everybody's going to be in play. Like you're not going to know where you stand until the final 3 holes, maybe the back 9 on Sunday, right? Like for the most part, unless somebody's running away with this thing, unless Bryson's got a 6-stroke lead heading into the back 9, like you're not going to know where you stand. If there's like 6 or 7 guys in contention on the back 9 or just coming into Sunday, it's not like okay, I have a 6 out of 6. I have a really good 6 out of 6 based on the placing points. I'm probably going to be finishing in the X amount of percentile, right? No, this week there's no cuts. You can have a 6 out of 6 and you can be feeling like I'm about to win the Millie Maker, and then you can just finish in a spot where you're barely min cashing. So that's why I don't like these weeks as much. It takes less strategy, right? The whole point is to try and get that first sweat. How many people are going to make it through the cut? Now I have a really good advantage. Now I know how I'm feeling. Now it just kind of comes down to anybody can build a good lineup this week, unless you're playing like 6K guys, right? For the most part, if you're spending all your salary this week, you probably have a good lineup. So that's not always going to be the case. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. What's the word, says Brian. What's the word? And then you get, what's good, Sal? What's going on, everybody? Yeah, so hop on in. What's up, Sal? I appreciate your hard work. Hey, Jay, what's going on? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, NBA video. First one, the NBA returns tomorrow. NBA video went up on the YouTubers earlier this morning. Projections will be out later today for the NBA slate that starts tomorrow. I'm pumped for the NBA, man. I'm so happy right now. Golf is probably my favorite thing to cover. NFL up there as well. But just NBA being a daily thing, right? Golf, you get it 4 days a week. If you got golf 7 days a week, I'd be in heaven. But NBA, you getting it daily. It just fills that need for those other couple of days, right? I respect your grind, my man. What's going on, Matthew? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so the content schedule is going to be continuing to be the same for golf. NBA, I'm going to try and do as many videos as I can. I don't want to overcrowd my YouTube channel, though, right? If I'm putting out 5 to 7 NBA videos a week and 5 to 7 NFL and then 2 to 3 NBA, it just becomes a lot. It starts to clog up the YouTube channel and it's going to ruin my SEO a little bit. So I plan to do the same golf stuff, the live stream Wednesday, the Monday DraftKings video, the Tuesday betting video I'll continue to do as long as it gets traction. And then I'll probably come through with the NBA videos maybe like 3 or 4 days a week. And then, of course, when the NFL starts, I'm going to be going all in on the NFL with probably a golf video a week, and definitely for the bigger events, smaller events, might just skip over and gloss over depending on what the prize pools look like. What's going on, Ryan? Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to continue to just kind of go through and answer any questions that pop up. What you're going to naturally get this week, and I got to hope that, yeah, we're on 5G, good. What you're naturally going to get this week, and you get them in a lot of WG fields, sometimes if somebody's really trending in a hot direction and DraftKings doesn't price them up for whatever reason, you're going to get those guys to be highly owned. This week, I mean, we'll end up seeing what happens, but a couple of guys might be 20%. I don't think you're going to see a guy above 25 or close to 30% owned like you had Harris English last week. So it's just going to be a situation where it's going to be balanced ownership. Your ways of getting different if you're playing a lot of lineups, outside of leaving money on the table, which is always an option, is, in my opinion, to just take stances. To just, if you're playing like 150 or even 20 max, just take stances. Exclude guys completely out of your player pool, because I think there's going to be a couple of guys who hit like 20% or like 18 to 22% owned, right? Maybe a handful. Maybe you can count them on one hand, 3, 4, or 5. But there's going to be this week more than ever, especially since there's only 78 players, a huge percentage of guys that are going to be between 10 and 15% owned. And when I say a huge percentage, maybe like 25% of the field is going to be between 10 and 15% owned. So it's not that crazy of a difference. So really, honestly, like you just have to take stances in spots. Getting to guys who are like 6% owned is still going to be very beneficial. Joel Damon was somebody on the Awesemo show and somebody that grades out as a sneak behind the rankings and projections that you can get on Patreon. Joel Damon is somebody that is my highest value play on the slate, but you don't even need him. He's 6,200, but you don't even need him. Now, sure, if you want to play 3 10K plus players, you're going to need him, and I don't even know if you can even fit that in after that. But like he grades out as the best value, and depending on the crunches that I'm looking at, like I got Joel Damon in 11% of my latest crunch, but before that he wasn't getting over 7%. So 11% is a good number, but if you look at the ownership on Joel Damon, I don't think he's going to be highly owned, although he probably should be higher owned than he comes in at. Because a lot of people who use optimizers, their optimizers aren't going to put him in there because although his value is so good because of his price points, his overall projected points aren't going to be that high. But that's a mistake in my opinion because he's cheap, so he can fit in other lineups for you. He can make you more unique by leaving money on the table, and it's going to be so close. There's going to be a huge group of players that have such similar scores this week because they finished T30 to T50, and those players for the most part are probably going to score similar in terms of birdies, probably going to score similar in terms of avoiding bogeys, and then their finishing position points are going to be very similar. So like T25s to like T45s are going to be so similar this week that if a Joel Damon comes out there and finishes T19, he's going to be probably needed because he's going to be that little bit of a bump above the rest. So the WGCs, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into your bankroll into this. I can't tell you how to spend your money, so don't even let me say that. But me personally, I'm not putting as much as I normally do down on the WGC event because your edge is lost a little bit there. And like the best value plays in the slate, if you can identify them and work them into your lineups good, they still might not even matter for you because $6,200 Joel Damon finishing 45th and $6,600 Brendan Todd finishing 37th. It's just going to matter more when Brendan Todd scores 3 more points. That's just what's going to matter because you can make so many lineups so easily this week because salary really isn't a constraint. Fleetwood or DJ thoughts? I think Tommy's fine. I think Tommy is very cheap, and I like him. Look, if Tommy Fleetwood makes the cut last week, if he doesn't double bogey or he just scores on Friday, he couldn't score at all. He lost 3 strokes putting. If he doesn't lose strokes putting, which he's an above-average putter, especially in this field, this loaded of a field, I think Tommy Fleetwood's fine. And if he just gains strokes or goes neutral with the putter, he's going to finish pretty strongly, and now you're getting a nice discount. If he made the cut last weekend and he finishes even T29, T35, he'd probably be like $9,500 this week, right around where Berger, Morikawa, and Hovland are. DJ, I think I'm going to fade. If you want to play, look, you can argue for any single player on the slate and say, this guy's good, he's cheap. This guy's good, he's cheap. Every single player you can say that for. Even guys like Rory up top, right? You can tell me that Rory's cheap at 11,200. You tell me he should be 11,700. Yeah, every single player has an argument that they're probably too cheap outside of like maybe Matthew Fitzpatrick, maybe Daniel Berger, although you can make an argument for him. Billy Horschel's a little bit interesting at 8,500. But yeah, DJ, it's just a spot where I don't want to have ownership to everybody. It's a 78-person field, and at first I thought maybe I'll only have like ownership to like 68, 65 guys. I've gotten it down to 59 guys. I just want more of a condensed player pool, right? If I'm having ownership to 72 of the 78 golfers, some people might like that, but then I'm just so spread out, right? I'm not giving myself enough shots. I don't feel like in getting above the field on a lot of guys. So I think DJ, I'm personally fading. It was a choice for me between DJ and Brooks, similar price point. I was getting like 11% Brooks or like 10% Brooks and like 6% DJ, and it just didn't make sense at that point. I might as well go all in on one of them, and I feel a little bit more confident. The price point of $100 doesn't really sway it, but I feel a little bit more confident in Brooks, but you can argue either way. I'll go Brooks there. I like Fleetwood more than both of them, and I like Fleetwood a good amount. Brian says Rory. Yeah, I like Rory a lot. I didn't bet Rory because I didn't want to bet anybody in the teens. My betting card started at 22-1 Xander, but Rory is the guy that if you told me who I think wins this event, it would be Rory. Why aren't you betting on him, Sal? I said this same thing when Bryson won, right? I think it would be Bryson. I don't want to lay 6-1 odds. I don't want to lay 11-1 odds on that short of odds, which for Rory, those are pretty good odds. Anytime you get him in the double digits, but in this loaded of a field, you have to lay so much more money down for it to be worth it. Long term, that's not going to pay off. Hit that like button, everybody. Hit that like button, everybody. If you're watching live or on the replay, shake your hand through. Like button, please, and hit the big subscribe button. I really do appreciate that. We're getting close to 24,000 subscribers. NBA is back. It's going to be a good time, everybody. It's going to be a good time. So thank you so much. Appreciate it all in advance. Do you like Lowry or Ches Reavie in the 6K range? I like Lowry more there. I don't think I'm going to play Reavie. I have them both in my player pool. Let me actually see. I like Lowry more, but I have 12% Lowry right now in my 150 max. And did I leave Reavie in? I have 7% Reavie, so I'll probably fade Reavie. X and Berger over 20. I could definitely see X being over 20%. Yeah, definitely. Xander is always this guy who pops up in ownership. I think there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that are 20% or more owned. If I had to guess at who they are, Xander, Webb, Rory. Maybe Justin Thomas, if I had to guess. That'd be my guesses. Just listen to the podcast. Give me Fat Pat for days. What do you mean, Fat Pat? What are you talking about? Do you like Spieth for the price? I think Spieth's price is fine. I thought he might actually hit the 7K range in this field, but I'm not going there. I'm not going to play him in high stakes. And again, you can make arguments for everybody on the slate. I don't normally say that. I'll take stronger stances, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I faded Spieth. I faded Jason Day. But Spieth's tee to green game has been fine, or at least relatively fine. Oh, he says Pat Reed's Nick. I didn't know what you were talking about. I thought you were talking about, when you said you listened to the podcast, I thought you were talking about like some other pod. I didn't know what I thought it was some guy's podcast called Fat Pat. Patrick Reed's nickname, you don't know it. Fat Pat. Now, honestly, I don't even hear that nickname often, no. Yeah, Patrick Reed's going to be popular, but again, I don't sense anybody's going to be crazy popular. Like if Patrick Reed's 18, 16% owned and 25% of the field is on average like 12% owned, then who gives a shit, right? Just get different elsewhere. So I think Patrick Reed's a strong play here. I mean, he obviously just won the last WGC event. What do you need here? You need guys who can hit it in the fairway, off the tee, long and straight. I mean, it doesn't have to be as long, but pretty much straight. And then you need guys who have second shots that are good, approach, and guys that can score. Patrick Reed is not going to pop off the page when it comes to some of that off the tee stuff, or that's where the concern comes in. But if it's a no-cut event and I need guys who can score, Patrick Reed is arguably one of the top 3 to 4 scorers in this field in terms of birdie or better. Sal, do you prefer single entry or MME? I prefer single entry and 3-max, but I do both. Is fading both DJ and Brooks fine? I would say yes. I think it's fine. I think they'll both be lower owned, though, so that's why I want to get a piece of one of them, and I'm going to get a piece of Brooks right now. Never miss a Sal video since Golf. I like it. Nicholas says Golf. Since Golf came back. Best DK pro in my novice opinion. I appreciate that. I'm not making as much money as the pros of the pros who do this for a living, making 6 figures or maybe 7 figures on the DK Golf. But when it comes to the content, yeah, I really do take pride in trying to provide the best possible. Is there any concern about weather? I'm thinking this is going to be a Monday finish in the PGA next week. I mean, yeah, just check the forecast. I won't have the weather factor into my main event or like my main 4-day builds unless it's going to be something really drastic. And then you could favor some of the guys from overseas if you want to. You can favor the guys like Hatton, maybe Fitzpatrick to an extent, guys that you think might have an advantage there. But weather's going to mean a lot more for Showdown. So like when I don't play first round Showdown, so I haven't checked the weather all that much, I'll check the weather for second round, third, and final day Showdown and let that factor in because it's going to affect that single day. But if there's going to be bad weather on a Friday and I don't know the proper way to build a lineup around a 4-day event where there's bad weather on a Friday, I'm not going to build my lineup just because it's going to rain for 3 hours on a Friday, right? So I think weather in almost every single sport is overrated outside of baseball because it actually cancels games. Football, I think it's wildly overrated unless the Vegas odds change on people. So if Vegas odds are not changing to make the cut odds and just odds in general for the outright wins on these golfers due to the weather, I'm just not going to change it. And maybe Vegas for golf isn't as advanced as it is for football because the markets are tighter. But outside of Showdown, and I had some guy reach out to me on Patreon a couple weeks back about how I don't talk about weather often because I think it's overrated. For Showdown, it's not. It matters for Showdown. But for 4-day events, unless it's going to be raining and windy for the entire weekend or 3 days, then yes, take players who you think factor better in those conditions. But everybody's on the same playing field for the most part when it comes to the DFS players going into it with having to factor in 3 hours of rain on the entire event or something like that. Going back to Paul Casey after last week for the discount, yeah, I think Paul Casey's fine. I think he sets up fine here. He lost 6 strokes putting last week. It's the most he's lost in like the last decade of recorded data. So, yeah, I think it's fine. Do you like building a very balanced lineup or 2 to 3 beast and 3 cheapies? So stars or scrubs are balanced. This week I think balance is fine. Both ways work. Some weeks it's one obvious. Like last week I thought it was in stars and scrubs. The last 2 weeks I thought it's been stars and scrubs type of a build. In terms of what I'm getting very balanced this week. And the ownership across the industry, like projected ownership numbers, are going to kind of indicate that it's going to be a pretty balanced week in terms of builds because nobody's popping off with crazy ownership. If it was a stars and scrubs build, you'd see like you have the last 2 or 3 out of 4 weeks where it's just all the guys in the 10K range are like 20+% owned. Not this week at all. You might actually see like, I doubt Bryson hits the single digit range, but probably closer to that than 20%. Kuchar have any value at 7,600 for a bona fide top 25? Yeah, right. Kuchar's just always somebody who plays consistent. Yeah, he has value there. I think Kuchar's fine. He's one of my 59 players that I'm owning this week. I think I have a decent amount of Kuchar. I think it was like 10% Kuchar. 13% Kuchar. Must be a Barstool thing tossed around. Yeah, man, I really haven't heard Fat Pat for Patrick Reed. I think Paul Casey's going to win, especially if he doesn't hit another snowman. I mean, yeah, he hit the snowman 2 weeks ago. He still could have made the cut, so it wasn't just that, but obviously that weighs in when you go 5 over on one hole. But he still did have a chance to make the cut after that. He was inside the cut number and then misses it. And then last week, he loses 6-stroke putting. Appreciate you, Sal. What would be your rank for Webb, X, and Xander? Or Webb, X, and Hatton? It would be that order. Webb, X, and Hatton. That's my rank. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's like 80% chance of rain the first 3 days. Well, that sucks. You can look for players who are better in those conditions. I personally am not going to try and factor in how much the rain is going to affect individual players. Wind will be a different story. I guess that you can look at players who do struggle more in conditions instead of looking for ones that pop off. So guys who have bigger samples like Cantley will struggle more in some conditions. Some more inexperienced players, I guess you can say, that might not have to deal with it, like a Hadwin or a Morikawa, although their irons can probably fight through that a little bit. So your accuracy off the tee, these are things that, like, if it's going to be windy, if it's going to be rainy, you can try and take into account a little bit more. But I'm not going to try and galaxy brain it. I'm not going to try and be the weatherman that tells you exactly how the rain is going to impact every single individual player. It's the things that you know would be obvious. Players that are straight off the tee, players that can deal with these conditions and are fine on tough courses in these conditions as well. If you have a database that shows you that, that's probably where I'd lean. So for the 80% chance of rain the first 3 days, it has now been addressed, and hopefully the people who are the weather nuts enjoy that. Patrick Reed's nickname is still Captain America. Yeah, I like that one a lot better. Thoughts on playing Stenson even though he hasn't played since before the break? Yeah, so if Stenson's irons are locked in, he sets up pretty nicely here. I'm not playing Stenson this week. It's just my choice. I don't have a hard and fast rule that you don't play the guy this week. It's just what I'm going to be going with. I don't think you can factor in we haven't seen him in a while, and maybe that's why I'm not playing him. But I just like other guys around that range, and then getting to Stenson means a bunch of guys around that range lose like 5% ownership or 3% ownership for me, and I'm just not interested in doing that. What do you think of Casey? I think Paul Casey's fine. I think he's a fair price point. I think lost 6 strokes putting last week. A lot of people are down on him. I think he sets up for this course. If you look at like just profiles for this course, the irons off the tee being straight, hitting greens and regulations, Paul Casey would be like a top 5 guy, right? But obviously he's having his struggles. He always struggles with the putter in major way last week. But I think Paul Casey's fine yet again. So tee up a like T58 for Paul Casey this week and just hating yourself again for playing him. I'm curious on how Spieth and Sergio play. Yeah, I mean, I actually like what Sergio's been doing. They've both been inconsistent. I mean, that's a definition of Spieth, and really both of these guys for the last couple of years. I have Sergio. I'm playing some Sergio this week. I'm not playing any Spieth. Neither will make obviously Spieth will make any of my higher stakes, but I'm not too high on them. Like, I don't think Sergio will be owned. I think I have 7% of him in my latest crunch, and that might be what he comes in owned at, like 5%, something like that. Pick 2, Xander X, Cantley Hatton. I keep saying Xander and X. Pick 2, Webb, Xander, Cantley, Hatton. Webb and Xander. Why is Hatton's fantasy points per game so much higher than everyone else's? And your thoughts on Hatton? Because Hatton's fantasy points per game is just from this year. And the only places he's played at this year, he's won or he's finished top 5. So that's why. I mean, Hatton's been fantastic. There's nothing negative to say about him. I like him. I have ownership to Hatton. I think I have like 15% ownership to Hatton. How do you not like the guy? And then if people who are the weather nuts, like John in the chat, and wants to hear people talk about the rain on a DFS stream, then yeah, Hatton will be a guy that can probably play a little bit better in the weather if you want to try and build narratives in that I don't think actually have much steam behind them. But Hatton is going to have a higher fantasy point performance because he's only played in 4 events and he's finished 6th, 1st, 3rd, and 4th. So yeah, when you're finishing on average in 3rd place in your 4 events that you've played, and your putter has been godly, I should say, really godly this entire year in 2020. He finished 6th at the WGC, 1st, 3rd, and 4th in that order. Hatton's going to be fine here. I think Hatton sets up good. The one concern would be his off the tee. But if you're just looking at Hatton's last 5, last 10 events, he gains everywhere. He's a solid player. He's priced fairly. I think he's fine. Sanjay Im, thoughts, Sal? Thanks. I mean, you can build a narrative around Sanjay similar to Morikawa. 2 young players. Sanjay's approach play and everything just goes out the window for 5 weeks straight. Morikawa was just 2 weeks. But then Morikawa said, hey, I'm going to take a week off. Comes back and he wins. Sanjay, who probably hasn't taken a week off in like 3 years, has finally taken a week off. He's lost strokes in every single event, all 5 since coming back. Putter's been atrocious. The approach play and his irons are going out. So if you want to say and try and throw that narrative onto Sanjay, which you obviously just can't do that, but if you want to build a narrative in your head, Sanjay took a week off, maybe he cleaned some things up. $7,500 Sanjay is a great price point, especially if anything clicks at all. This is a guy that's just a walking top 10, top 20. So I think Sanjay's fine. I think he'll pick up ownership. I'm not like enamored with Sanjay, even at that price discount. Like I'm not going head over heels for Sanjay. I have 10%, so I'm probably going to be below the field. Im used to be a go-to guy for you. He forgot how to play golf after the break. Yeah, he finished top 10 in his first event back, so it wasn't completely after the break, but then yeah, after that it got really, really bad. M. Thompson, I'm going to fully fade Thompson. The only reason he's in this field is because he had his best strokes game putting and approach play in the same event in the last 4 years last week. So he only qualified because he won last week. So congrats to him, but I have no interest. Why no Billy H? Been in a good form and does well in this course. Yeah, he's got course history, right? But the issue with the course history is they've only played here once as a WGC. So his course history before that, I really don't care about. Like even guys like Berger, even guys like DJ winning here twice, I don't care about it because they won here in full field events where there was a cut and where the field was nowhere as good as it is with a WGC. Some cops or something out there. So I think Horschel's overpriced. I think he's probably $400, $500 overpriced. So it's just a situation where I can't have ownership to everybody. I don't want to own 72 out of the 78 golfers. I'm right now owning 59 out of the 78 golfers. I just can't own all of them. Like Horschel, you can make a case for him. I prefer Answer, Woodland, Fleetwood, Reed in that range. So that's where I'm going to end up going to, and even Ricky to an extent. So that's where I'm going to end up going to there. The form has been okay. You've seen it pop off in some, but for the most part, since the return has been bad. More recently, it's been a little bit better. But the course history, outside of last year, where yes, he finished T9, so that's good to see, it doesn't really matter too much for me. Any love for Ricky? Slight love for Ricky. I mean, he's nothing drastic here. I think if the off the tee game can stay clicking, he'll set up nicely. But no major love for Ricky. Have some ownership towards Ricky right now, like 10%. What about my boy Wallace? I think Wallace sets up nicely here. I have Wallace 12%. Is Webb your top guy this week? I've got like 4 or 5 guys that are pretty much all the same ownership, so no like specific top guy. I think Webb sets up really nicely. Best par 70 player in the field. Poulter, question mark? Yeah, Poulter's fine. The price point on Poulter's fair. I thought it would be more expensive. I thought you might see Poulter in the 8K range, but Poulter since the return, he's doing it all putting, right? For the most part. So he's a good putter, but what he's doing putting right now, like he's number 1 in the field. That can be a concern when you're trying to get irons from him because Poulter does not have hot fire irons. So it could all fall apart for Poulter, but I don't think he's picking up any major ownership. So, I mean, it kind of balances out the risk when the price is down and the ownership is not there. Thoughts on Houma and Hadwin? I have ownership towards them, but neither of them are really standing out for me. So Houma sets up here, right? I mean, he's a guy who has irons. That's how he does it. He just doesn't putt. That's not going to get it done here in this type of a field, though. So no real strong stance on Houma. Hadwin just doesn't score enough for me, and he doesn't really stand out in one spot. The approach play is okay. I would prefer Houma there. I have ownership to both of them, but nothing in any major occurrences. Let me see what I have Houma and Hadwin at. Yeah, they're both going to be single-digit owned guys for me. Billy Ho seems significantly overpriced. Yeah, it's for course history. That's why he's overpriced, which I don't really buy into this week. Louis is $6,800. Way too cheap. Yeah, I mean, he's cheap, but like everybody in the 6K range is. The COVID break killed Sanjay to an extent. I mean, he came back and finished 10th. Think it's safe to play Collin and Webb in your lineup with maybe a cheap Poulter, Hatton, Xander? Hatton and Xander aren't cheap, but yeah, I think you could play Webb and Collin Morikawa. Their profiles are what I want here. Ball strikers, Webb can putt. How do you feel about playing Morikawa and Hadwin in the same lineup? I like it. They're very similar players. Both struggle with the putter. Hadwin does not have as much experience to close things out at that price point. I like those two guys. Yeah, I think they set up fine here. I don't think I'm getting a lot of lineups of both of them, although I might be because I have a very good amount of both right now. Yeah, I think both of them's fine. I think you might actually be unique if you play both of them. And like your lineup, obviously it matters what you do after that. Like they're both going to pick up ownership. But I don't think they're going to be like, they might not even be in the top 10 in ownership just because of where their price points are relative to guys like Xander's always going to be popular, Webb's going to be popular, and then you get to sort of that cheaper range where Reed is and Woodland and all those guys who always pick up ownership. In that in-between range, there's going to be guys like Brooks, DJ, I think Morikawa and Hadwin. Maybe Morikawa picks up ownership, but the rest of them I think they're going to be slightly under-owned. Reed doesn't play well with Koepka. Can he change that? Yeah, I mean, if that's a narrative, I probably won't buy it, but interesting. Off topic, but will there be a ladies PGA on DraftKings? You harp on WNBA being profitable. I imagine LPA is being the same. No, I don't think it would be the same. WNBA is very profitable because NBA and WNBA are highly projectable. They're the most projectable sports. The range of outcomes in a WNBA or an NBA game is not that wide. The reason why WNBA is so profitable is it's like the NBA was 4 or 5 years ago. There wasn't as much information out there, so if you just knew the starters and you knew how to project the players, you were going to profit. And then if you were really good at projecting players and really good at keeping up with the news, you were going to be one of the best in that range. Whereas women's PGA, it's not the same. It's so variant. You have to still play the ownership game. So like you can obviously get more data and it's probably going to be more profitable than the PGA on a case-by-case basis, but not obviously not the biggest prize pools. But no, it wouldn't be the same as the WNBA. WNBA is just so much more projectable. The news is so airtight. Like if you go, there's like 3 WNBA stat sites and all of them kind of suck too in terms of what like relative to any NBA. So if you know how to project players, which I was doing last year, WNBA and XFL were my most profitable sports by ROI percentage last year. And that really shouldn't shock anybody. It's the 2 sports where you get the most news. And we only got XFL for like a month, sadly. But it's the 2 sports where if you just have information and news, that you're literally going to profit. It was like League of Legends for like the first 2 or 3 weeks. If you go live tomorrow, Sal, for basketball, you will break your record for live viewers. I don't know if I will. We had about 13 or 1,400 during the NFL season, a couple of streams. So I don't think I'll break my record. Especially because it won't be a prime time. Like if I go live at 5 or 6, or the game starts at 6:30. So if I went live at like Ultima's going to start at 4:30 and then 5:30. That's going to take a lot of viewership. I'd have to go live at like 3 when half the people are at work. It's not the same as a Sunday morning. So I think there'll be a lot for sure, but I don't know if I'll break the record. But yeah, I want to make sure that I'm not on when Osmo is because of obvious reasons of people are going to watch them. And just like, I don't really want to be on that close to lock, like up until lock when I change some of my stuff. But I'm going to see what time I'll go live tomorrow. I'm thinking maybe like 3, go live for like a half hour. As long as we have like most of the lineups by then. Do you like Todd or Reevy? I like Todd. Thanks, Sal. You're awesome, man. You are as well. Cam Smith and Cam Champ, heavy sleepers. I like Champ. I think Smith's fine. Just no real strong stance there. Joel Damon, 6,400. I think he's 6,200 price tag. Another guy I'm looking at. Thanks, Sal. Yeah, Joel Damon is my highest ranked player right now. You just don't need him, though. He's my number 1 value player, Joel Damon, in my rankings. He's the only one who hits a 10x multiplier in fantasy point value. There's a couple other guys who are really close. Like, there's guys under the radar in that 6K range, and I think you could play 2 of them. But, yeah, Joel Damon's not going to pick up ownership. I think he's fine. He's not going to pick up a ton, I don't think, although he should, just because you don't need him. Like, you don't need to go that low to make a good lineup. So, like, what you're hoping on by playing Joel Damon is that he actually finishes highly. Like, most weeks when a guy is 6,200, if he finishes T30, you're feeling good, right? He finished 30th. He made the cut. This week, if Joel Damon finishes T30, he's going to have such a similar score to so many guys from T20 to T50 that it's not going to matter as much. There's going to be other 7K range guys, right? He might score 60 points this week, which is great. He's like 10xing his salary, but the 6 guys in the optimal lineup or the winning lineup probably scored 70, right? So you actually need Joel Damon to score highly for his actual spot in your lineup to be worth it. And obviously, he's not the best golfer in this field. That's why he's priced cheaply. So it's kind of a difficult decision because value almost doesn't matter as much this week because most weeks you just want Joel Damon to make the cut. This week you actually need like a top 20 out of Joel Damon or a top 25 for him to be in your winning lineup more times than not is what I'm assuming is what the optimizers are saying right now. Hey Sal, is it important to consider ownership leverage over statistics / recent form due to there being a no-cut event? Most weeks, ownership is the most important thing in golf. It's always going to be very close up there. But this week, look, ownership matters the most for game theory, building a ton of lineups. It's going to matter the most in almost every sport, right? If there's high ownership and just leveraging ownership. It's literally the number 1 thing, in my opinion. But this week, you're going to see balanced ownership. Like, I think almost a third of the field is probably going to be between 10 and 15% owned, which is crazy. Maybe like 25% of the field, which is crazy because there's obviously only 78 golfers. So if 25 guys come in at 10 to 15% owned, there's your quarter of the field. So ownership, obviously if you get the 2-3% owned guy and he pops off, yeah, ownership is going to matter. So ownership always matters the most. But this week relative to most tour events, like ownership is going to be very balanced. So I don't actually think it matters as much. I think you want to take more stances in your player pool size. What's the most money you would leave on the table this week? All of my lineups are going to leave at least $300 on the table. I might set it to $500 on the table, but I think I'll get unique just because I'm fading a couple of higher owned guys, and there's no number. If you leave $5,000 on the table, I think it's fine. Like, there's no number. It depends what the lineup is, but there's no set number. Like, I don't want to spend more than I don't want to leave more than $1,000. No, like, I don't really mind. I don't have any minimum qualifications set in my optimizer settings. Are you okay leaving money on the table on 20 max in certain lineups? Yeah, definitely. Why a no on DJ? I just don't want to own everybody. I can't own every single player in this field. I'm only owning 59 right now of the 78, so some players have to get cut. I prefer Brooks at low ownership to DJ at low ownership, such as a personal stance at that point. I like Brooks at this event more, not just because he won last year. I just like his odds a little bit better. Led the field in tee to green last week before he got cut because the putter sucked. So that's why there's a no on DJ. Am I going to pull my hair out if I play Ricky and Spieth in the same lineup? Yes. What else? Berger is number one in the field. Strokes gained 2.77 in the last 20 rounds. Why no love? There's love for Berger. I have an X on him. Berger's fine. Berger's playing fine. A lot of that is going to be the last 20 events that he's played in. So he's been playing very strongly. Last time you saw him, just like a lot of people, he ended up getting cut at the Memorial after starting off very hot. Just prefer other guys around him. I prefer Webb, Xander, Hatton, Morikawa, and Hovland to Berger this week. Berger would slide in right after all those guys. But since I prefer 7 guys that are around him in price more, his ownership is just not going to be as high for me personally. And he's also going to be owned. Like, he'll probably be around 15% owned. I think I have a decent amount of Berger. I think I'm below the field, though. I currently have 10% Berger, so there, I have him, right? He's not a no right now. Who do you like best in the 6K range? Probably Joel Damon. Joel Damon, Todd. Hyung-Tung Lee will be unowned, and I think he has actually upside. I have 6% Hyung-Tung Lee. I'm probably like 3 to 5 times above the field on him. Cameron Champ, like, these guys are all fine. What ownership do you have Neiman at 7.K? Seems like a pretty good value. Yeah, I think Neiman's like one of the dark horses on this slate. I want more Neiman, but I'm not getting it right now. I think I might have to manually bump up his projection by a point or two to get more of him. I'm getting 11%, which is probably going to be more than the field, but I kind of want more. So here's the thing with Neiman. He's kind of, like, I'm going to be above the field at 11%, I'd say. I can't see him being double digits. Neiman is the guy you want for this course. He's just inconsistent. So if you get the bad Neiman week, he's going to finish dead fucking last. But if Neiman's irons are clicking and he's just not blowing up on the putting green, then Neiman is going to be right there as a Hovland and Morikawa type of a player, right? Hot irons in that 7K range, probably the best irons potentially outside of Paul Casey. So yeah, I think Neiman's going to be somebody who's going to be like 5% owned and has a mega ceiling, but he has a terrible floor. Like, the reason why Morikawa and Hovland are more expensive is more times than not, they're going to finish like top 30 in this event. Neiman is going to finish like dead last just as much as he finishes like in the top 10. Thoughts on Victor Perez? How is his Bermuda putting? Yeah, I mean, I look into Bermuda putting splits a little bit, but I don't try and galaxy brain it and look far down that much. Like, if you're trying to trick your brain into thinking like, okay, this makes me like this guy more, then yeah, look at Bermuda putting. The surfaces definitely are different and they matter a little bit, but they're not going to be like the number one reason why I'm choosing a guy. I faded Victor Perez. The only guy in the 6K, the exact 6K flat price point that I have ownership to is Jazz, and it's not a lot. You just don't need those guys. And I honestly think Victor Perez is wildly overrated in the world rankings. Thoughts on Adam Hadwin? Yeah, he's safe. He just doesn't really score much. He's a guy who's going to go out there and get you a bunch of pars. In this type of field, I don't need that. So I have ownership, but not a lot. I feel the winning lineup is going to be based around how well DJ plays. Interesting. If this guy comes out and wins at sub 5% ownership, DJ will not be below side. He will not be 5% ownership. David Johnson, Dustin Johnson is going to end up being probably, he's going to have to be double digit ownership. I can't see him not be. Does ownership matter more or less in a 3 max? Just as much. You're going to need to get different, right? 3 max, it's just as much. Yeah, I mean, obviously in 150, you can manipulate your ownership more relative to the field because you have more lineups to do that, right? You're going to get 33% ownership to a guy if you play him in one of your 3 max lineups. I can do different things. I can get 17% of a guy if I want in 150. But I'm going to say it matters just as much. Why is Kevin not a no? Just can't play everybody. Just can't play everybody. That's the main reason. Obviously, some risks with the health on Kevin Na. He doesn't project out that great for me. So, I mean, the exact statistical answer to it is Kevin Na does not grade out great for me. He is a C in my rankings, and there's guys around him who are ranked as a C+ or a B- or a B+. So, yeah, Kevin Na is one of the guys who doesn't stand out in that range for me. Guys like Niemann, guys like Poulter, guys like Im, Scheffler, Connors, Paul Casey, all grade out better. So instead of getting Kevin Na at 6% ownership and that taking 1 or 2 percentage points out of all the other guys around him, I just say, fuck you, Kevin Na, get out of here. Nothing against you personally, get out of my exposures so I can get more of everybody else. Palmer versus Kisner. I'll take Palmer there, but not really interested in either. Scary question. Do you have any Bubba? No. Straight up fading Bubba for the past month and a half has been the best decision of my life. Thoughts on Scotty? I like getting 4 rounds out of him. I love getting 4 rounds out of Scotty. Yeah, I like Scotty a lot this week. I think Scotty will pick up ownership because people know that he's a good scorer. Scotty will finish dead last one round, and he'll be in dead last. He'll be in last place after Thursday, and then he'll shoot an 8 under, and he'll be T28, and then he'll go 3 under, and then 2 under, and he'll finish top 10. Right? Scotty is a good golfer. He's just been getting eaten alive by 1 or 2 bad holes where he goes double bogey, and he can't make up for that in time for the weekend, and he misses the cut. But he's one of the best birdie or betters players in this field. He's one of the best DraftKings scorers in this field, top 10, and in a loaded field like this one, and he's dirt cheap at 7,300. 4 days out of Scotty is very, very nice. Not sure I want to play him in higher stakes yet, but he's actually in my higher stakes pool of players I'm trying to decide on. I have 15% Scotty. I assume I'm going to be above the field. I hope I am. Im, Niemann, or Poulter? That's a good question. Im, Niemann, or Poulter? I have more Poulter right now. But if you're playing just one lineup this week, I think Niemann is your option there. Low owned, has a lot of upside. And he can finish dead last, but you're not winning anyways if he's playing poorly, so it doesn't matter. Hatton and Niemann, or Reed and Ricky? Let's go Hatton and Niemann. Sergio, question mark? Yeah, I think he's fine. Poulter's top 20, question mark? Definitely in the cards. What do you think the winning score will be? Winning score, I'll say, is 13 under. Total guess. Rahm or Rory? Rory. Joel Damon only works if your top guys don't bomb. Yes. You can leave $2,000 on the table and your only top guy could be Rory, right? And then you can go down to the 9K range for 1 or 2. So it doesn't have to be the tippy top guys. But Joel Damon, you need him to pop off and your top guys to pop off. So I understand why the optimizer is not putting him in my lineups unless I manipulate his overall projection, which I've done a little bit. But that's why he's not going to be owned. Joel Damon is the best value play on the slate. But value does not matter this week relative to most weeks because he has to do well himself. It's not just, he did okay, and that's all we needed out of the $6,200 golfer. No, you need this guy to go top 20 this week, top 25, because that's how much it actually matters, because everybody else, all the other top-end lineups are going to have 6 guys in there that all probably finished in the top 30, and it scored 70-plus points. EVR or Lowry? Another good question. I like both. EVR is a better scorer. Lowry better upside for winning, in my opinion. I have 11. Here's your answer. I have 11% EVR and 12% Lowry. So coin flip for me. If I had to take one, I'd take EVR. You getting any Van Royen at 6'8"? Yep. Does Cantley have better chance to be a top 10 this week or finish outside the top 20? I'd say he has a better chance this week to finish outside the top 20 than the top 5. And I like Cantley. It's nothing against him. It's just this is a loaded field and it's really hard to finish top 5. Willett, Wallace, Champ, Hovland, Cantley, Simpson. Brandon just gave everybody in the world his lineup. Hope you win a milli. Love it. Thanks. No problem, man. Yeah. Yo, everybody. Hit the like button. Smash the subscribe button. Bottom right-hand corner. Tap the notification bell as well. NFL videos. NBA is now back. And the golf is here. I'd like to continue to cover Golf Showdown, but I have a scary feeling that they're going to lower the contest sizes or the overall money, right, in the pools because they lowered the Millie Maker by half. So it won't be worth covering for me, especially because I'm traveling home this weekend for the first time, seeing my being home in a year. Since no Thanksgiving, so see my fam and all that. Saw them for a couple hours on Father's Day, but I'm going to go home, so I'm not going to be doing the live streams this weekend for the overall Golf Showdowns, but we'll be covering some of the stuff on Patreon, so be sure to subscribe there. Also, be sure to check out Superdraft. I am not kidding. I won't even fib to you. I think they actually just credited the account. They take a while, but hopefully they get better at that. Superdraft sponsored today's show. I've been playing MLB since it started, right? And if you have any decent projections or any decent idea of how to stack an MLB on Superdraft, you're going to just win money. So I've won all 4 days, and it could be a streak, but it's because of the overlay. Like right now, the MLB contest starts in 8 hours. They're only like 10% full. They've only filled to like 60 or 70% the last couple of days. That's crazy. Like normally if you see 5% overlay in a DraftKings contest, you're like, holy shit, there's so many overlay. There's 5% of the field that DraftKings has to pay, so there's less competition for the same amount of money. You have a better chance, better EV, expected value at winning money. It's a totally different level right now. SuperDraft had like 30 and 35% overlay in some of their contests that I was hitting up. So now 30 to 35% of the field is not in there. You're not competing with them, but you're all playing for the same amount of money. So 65% of the field is competing for the top 25% of the spots to win money when it's normally 100% of the field. So you have a great chance at actually profiting. So use promo code SAL, get up in there, play MLB, play NBA now that it's returning tomorrow, really. Promo code SAL gets you $10 free. So use the code SAL, you get in, you get $10. I think they're still doing the deposit bonus. I reached out to them. I have to follow up, but yeah, it's crazy. Like I love baseball DFS. I'm not covering it, of course, so I'm not keeping up too much with it, especially with all the crazy shit. Like they don't even know if they're gonna finish the season. What the hell is happening with the Marlins? But man, like I get excited looking at it because like last night I finished 60th out of like 900 and something people. I played like 1 or 2 lineups, right? I'm not like going crazy. I'm playing like $25 over there, but I think I'm gonna like deposit and actually play a lot more over there because it's crazy, and you could have unique lineups. Any thoughts on the first round leader? No, not really. Yeah, people first round leaders like last week I actually gave somebody in the comment section 2 or 3 options, and one of them was Richie Winiski, who was, I believe, the first round leader. But look, first round leaders, I don't bet them as much. I probably should. I would just stick to like the 80 plus range. So like in this field, I don't want first round leaders. That's the thing though. Like I would have looked at it a little bit more if it was just a Barracuda this week, the alternative field. But a lot of the first round leader numbers are going to suck. Like you can get guys at 100 plus to 1, right? Like Corey Connors is 125 to 1, Poulter's 90 to 1, Neiman's 90 to 1. Like these are decent odds, but this is such a loaded field that there's a really good chance the first round leader comes from like the 35 to 45 to 1 range, like your Paul Casey's, your Jason Day, well not Day, Tommy Fleetwood, right? Answer Reed. So I'm not going to want it as much, but I would probably stick into the range of Shane Lowry, like 150 to 1, right? EVR 150 to 1. Those are the types of guys I'd be betting for first round leader. Who else is down here that looks decent? Not much else. Like Connors 125 to 1. Poulter at 90 to 1 looks pretty good as well. That's via DraftKings looking quickly. What is Casey's ownership looking like? I think Casey will be single digit owned. Maybe he'll hit 10%, but I don't think he'll be that highly owned, and I'm probably going to have double that ownership. Off topic, but how are you feeling about Adam Scott next week? Haven't seen him since Arnold Palmer. Yeah, I mean, anytime Adam Scott laces it up, he's like one of the few players that I think actually is going to compete. So I'm not going to fade him like I'm doing with Stenson right now. I'm not going to feel a little bit like how I did with Hideki in the past. Adam Scott is similar to like not their playing styles, but like Cantley in terms of like when Cantley came back from the break, I was like, yeah, I don't worry about it. When Hatton came back from the break, I was like, these guys are just damn good. I don't worry about it. I'm probably going to have the same approach with Scott, but we'll see. We'll see once I cover that event next week. Subscribe to Patreon. Stop being cheap, says Evan. No, man. I mean, look, this is the way that I view Patreon. Obviously, I'm putting a lot of work into it. It's not just a donation. Like, there's actually good content over there. It's the stuff that I use. But end of the day, like things are going on in this world that are difficult for many people. Even if the things weren't going on, obviously people live by budgets. I live by a budget. So it's for the people that just want to support me. And then they want that extra content. So that's all it's there for. It's not, you better get Patreon, right? It's not that. It's if you want me to keep doing this. And like the people who are on Patreon, that's a large chunk of my income and revenue. So it does allow these streams and things like that to go on. So it is sort of like an ecosystem of you get a ton more content on Patreon and actually good tools, but you also just get like the ability for these to actually survive. If there was 0 patrons, I probably wouldn't be able to do these at the amount that I do, right? Just the streams and the videos. I wouldn't be able to put out right now with the NBA coming back in NFL. I have NFL scheduled for a couple of weeks ahead, thankfully, but I'm going to probably be putting out like 15 pieces of content on YouTube a week. Right? 10 to 15. That doesn't even count the Patreon stuff. So like to be able to work that much and not work at another part-time job or another job, it's thank you to all the Patreons. You all rock. Is starting your lineup with Rory and Rahm crazy? No, I think it's pretty good. Any thoughts on first round leader? Okay, we just answered that one. So yeah. Simpson or Finau? I'll go Simpson. Doing any Barracuda bets this week? I'm not, but the field is really good, honestly, for an alternative field. If you're only able to make one single entry lineup for the weekend, what do you mean? I don't understand what you mean, Brandon. What are you saying there? If I was only able to make one, what would my lineup be? I have no idea. I'm going to build my single. I have my spots reserved. I'll probably build my single entry lineups in the morning at like 4 a.m. Do you prefer Connors over Scheffler? I like Scotty more. But I like both. Solid info there. Thank you. I appreciate it, Evan. Do you like Fitzpatrick in GPP? I have 0%. So he's just a little bit overpriced. I'm going to fade him. I'm going to fade him. Uh-oh. I'm going to fade him. I'm going to fade him. Cool. I just saw some guy, Dynasty Dorks, tag me on Twitter, posted one of my NFL videos from a while ago. Post-hype sleeper, he says. Buy Chris Herndon, sell Blake Jarwin, bust Evan Ingram again. Cool. Okay, cool. Any love for Rafa? I actually have him, I think, right now. So, like, my exposures are going to change, the ones I've been saying, but I'm not, like, trying to be, like, pulling one a fast one on you. Like, I'm telling you the exposures I have right now. I'm going to finish it up when it goes. I think I still have Rafa in my player pool, but let me double check. I might not. Yeah, so I currently have Rafa 7% owned in my player pool, but I want to get away from him. I don't really want Rafa this week. Like, I want to narrow down this player pool pretty tightly. So I'll do that right now, actually. I'll just take out Rafa and I'll see what happens. But, I mean, he's just not playing well. And at the end of the day, he doesn't project out well for me, which is what's going to really factor in a lot of this stuff. So let me just do the same exact crunches just without Rafa now, and let's see how many guys I get. Answer or Casey? I'm going to go answer there, but I like both. Are you concerned with Casey being such a bad putter considering these will be major type green speeds? Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's a bad putter, but he's not like the worst in the field. He's not Hideki. He's not Benny Ann. He's a bad putter, but he's not that bad. And yeah, he lost 6 strokes putting last week, so let's hope he does something a little bit better this week. So I took out Rafa, and it does change up my exposures. It gives me a lot more Scotty Scheffler. Uh-oh. Hello. Gives me a little bit more Daniel Berger. Gives me a little bit more Xander, which I don't mind. Rory's up there still. Takes down Patrick Reed, though. He only gave me 14%. I want more than that. Yeah, so no more Rafa for me. Sal faded. What does that mean? What does faded mean? Fade Ed? What does that mean, Steven? Rom or Rory? I'll go Rory there. Did you see Fitzpatrick last round at Memorial? He flew through that round beautifully. He's got game. Yeah, I did. He was very good. But I mean, like, the other guys around him in this field are better. And he's priced up. I never get Fitzpatrick, man. He's just the guy who finished T32 everywhere, right? He'll be half decent. Somebody says faded means you lit. Yeah, I know what faded means. Man, I'm 24 years old. I'm fresh out of college. I know what that means. But I'm not lit. But he put capital ED, so I thought it might mean something else. Intoxicated, somebody says. Yeah, no. This is straight water. I just ran 5 miles. 5.5 miles, actually, because I fucked up the running distance. I ran, like, normally, like, my 5-mile run finishes, like, right in front of my apartment. And then I just, like, walk for a second to get my legs back under me. And I got to 5 miles, and I was, like, a half mile away. And I was like, fuck, I got to keep running. But I did. Got them mean ankles now. Well, you're asking my G all love. Yeah, no. I saw him say Sal fade Ed, like ED, capital ED he wrote, so I thought something else was up. Do you like Mackenzie Hughes? Yeah, actually, I kept him in the player pool. I think Mackenzie Hughes is a good player relative to, like, that range of players. So I did keep Mackenzie Hughes in the player pool. I don't know how much I got. I don't think I got a lot. Yeah, I think I'm getting, like, very low. I think I'm getting, like, 2% Mackenzie. Oh, I got 5%. There you go. Any love for Streelman? Yes, if Streelman's putter can keep doing what Streelman's putter is doing, he's going to be good in this field. I have him at 9%. Bohag is not playing this week, so Showdown will be less profitable. That's funny. I was just making a joke because you were saying fade him all funny. Yeah, I'm going to fully fade him. How do you feel about Ian? Let's see how much Ian I got. I had 16%, but I just took out RCB, so I'm sure it's going to mess some things up for me. Hey, Sal, thoughts on Kokrak and Soderberg? Much love. Yeah, I don't have any Soderberg. I don't really have a strong read on it, but I just don't have him. Kokrak, I think, is a good play. I think he's fine at that price point. So we had a question about Ian Poulter. I'm going to get to that right now. Why don't I? Ian Poulter, I have 14%, so I still like him. Any day this week, I faded Jason Day. I personally faded Jason Day, yeah? Jason Day is faded. Any concern for Xander? Seems to be getting a lot of public love and ownership. I'm a sports bettor, not DFS typically. Yeah, so Xander's always owned. So if there's one player in a field that when he's in $9,000, you can expect to be owned, it's Xander. So Xander's like, let's look at Fantasy National recent ownership. Xander's probably always 20+% owned, if I'd imagine. Definitely in cash, but let's look at GPPs. 20%, 13%. So let's see. So I guess lately he hasn't been that owned because the fields are so loaded. That's why. But this is not pulling from some recent events. So Xander always picks up ownership. He gets a lot of public love a lot. He does set up for this course nicely. He historically dominates no-cut events because Xander is similar to Scottie Scheffler except more consistent, and that's why he's so deadly. Xander will go 4 over one round, and then he'll go 10 under the next round like he did at the Masters last year. He started like 2 over and then went 10 under in the best round of the day on Friday. Absolutely torched it. So Xander usually gets a lot of public love. His ownership will be high. I don't think you have to fade it. I don't. It depends what you want to do with the rest of your lineup. I think he's a pretty solid play this week. Do you like Day, number 1 putting on Bermuda? Yeah, no, I don't. Sal, are you getting Answer or Casey in your high stakes? So I haven't built my high stakes lineups, to be completely honest with you. I have my exposures 90% done, right? I'm going to tweak a couple of things before I enter the contest. I have all my contests reserved, but I haven't even built my high stakes lineups. I have a pool of about like 12 guys for my main single entry lineup that I'll choose from, and then I'll use the rest of them and factor them into my other 3 max lineups. But I haven't built my higher stakes lineups yet. You asked me if Casey or Answer are going to be in them. They are both in the pool of 12 to 15 guys that can potentially get in them right now, yes, but they are not currently in them because nobody's currently in them. I'll rewind the stream, but any 10K plus guys you don't want to touch. What's going on, Jordan? So I don't think I'm going to get a lot of Bryson just because of the off the tee game can be a little bit erratic, but there's no guys that I'm completely fading. I would rank this 10K plus range as Rory, JT, Cantley, Bryson, and Rahm in that order, but I have ownership towards all of them, so I'm not fading any of them. Sal, I know you're busy, but it'd be awesome to get an optimizer tutorial someday. Yeah, so that's the issue. So I have one in my League of Legends course. I'm going to add one to my DraftKings NFL course, my DFS NFL course. So I do those things. They're just in specific spots where it makes sense for me to spend the time to do them, right? Like putting out an optimizer video on YouTube will get like 200 views. So it's going to help you and like 100 other people. But for me to spend like, I don't know, especially right now with NBA coming back and NFL taking up a lot of my time and golf, like it would take me 4 hours to prep and properly do an optimizer video and edit it and upload it. And just that's just never worth it right now for me unless I'm putting it within like a course. So then obviously it's evergreen and it gets paid. But my NFL course, I'm going to update. The people who had it last year will still have access to it. And then if any other people want to buy it this year for DFS, it goes over like 20% general. The rest is NFL, but I'll add some optimizer stuff. Appreciate the insight. No problem. No problem. Is it rare to cash in higher GPP with a 4 of 6? I cashed last week, even some 3 out of 6. It depends on the week. Last week was brutal. Everybody sucked. 3 out of 6s were cashing in a lot of spots. I think my most owned outcome was 2 out of 6. It was brutal. I gave all my money away to the sites. If you don't count Showdown, I lost like 80% of my entry fees last week. And I'm happy about that I actually got 20% back because I had a ton of 2 out of 6s. Last week was brutal. I played a lot of the 10K range, and all of them except Tony Finau got cut. Will a top 20 bet 4-1 odds? He finishes top 20. I like the bet. What do you think about Jazz this week? I have him. He's the only guy at 6K flat that I actually have ownership towards. All right, gang. I actually went longer than I thought I was gonna. I think we've been on for like almost an hour. Yeah, 53 minutes. 128 of you are in here. Nice. Hit the like button and subscribe before you go. I think I'm gonna bounce, gang. If you're watching on the replay, check out Superdraft. Check out and definitely check out Superdraft. Promo code Sal. Link down below. Check out Patreon. It's in the description. If you want the Closing Thoughts podcast, went up yesterday night. And projections and rankings are up there as well. Does it make sense to make a lineup with guys who probably won't be highly owned, maybe starting off with DJ and Koepka? Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, nothing against it. Yes, no cut, play the ownership. Yeah, you want to play the ownership always, but the ownership's not going to give you a big edge this week unless you're just playing like singly owned guys, right? Like single digit ownership. There's not going to be crazy ownership plays. Like, obviously, don't play the top 6 guys in the ownership because it's going to be really hard to be unique. But this week, more than ever, like, you can very easily have your highest owned guy in your lineup be 16% owned because there's going to be balanced ownership. And 16% ownership is not that high. So if you have 16% owned guy and you got 2 guys at 12% and 1 guy at 8 and 1 guy at 6 and 1 guy at 7, you got a unique lineup right there, right? So It's going to be easy to make unique lineups this week if you leave some money on the table because it's balanced ownership and if you're not playing 70 of the 78 guys in your 150s. Right now I have 58 guys out of 78, so I'm fading 20 guys completely. And I feel good about that. I feel like it's going to give me a tighter core. All right, everybody. No problem, Josh. Peace out. Tomorrow, you guys want me to go live for NBA? I'd have to go live at like 3 to 3:30, something like that maybe. Yeah. The video's up for the 2-game slate. I'll probably go live tomorrow if people actually tune in. I'd assume Awesome will start at 4:30 and then 5:30 for a 6:30 start. So, yeah, I'll go live at like 3. Last question. Any Im love? Yeah, Im's price is too hard to ignore. I'm skeptical of how he's playing, but the week off should have helped him. I have 10% Im. All right, peace out, gang. I'm going to close out some of these windows. I'm going to go record a mock draft video in like a half hour. It's one spot left if anybody wants to get into the mock draft. We're going to start recording around noon for a YouTube video in the future. If anybody wants in the mock draft, one spot left. I'll post a link right now. You have to be there at noon, so don't join into this unless you're going to be ready at noon. Otherwise, I hate you. There's a stream. You have to draft from the 8 spot starting in about 45 minutes. All right. Peace out, gang. Peace out, gang. I got to put up the end screen right now. Thanks for tuning into this video, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Check out some of the other videos in the NFL space. Hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed right now, what are you doing with yourself? But I appreciate it. Thank you so much. See you guys in the next one.